it's such a special moment. God's will is actualized by us. So we're
Can I share my story?
Oh
Before I
yeah,
forget, I'm
Danielle,
so
let's hear
sorry.
your story. Danielle said she had a story.
I
Before
just
I say
remembered.
anything,
Okay, sorry.
oh, this is I really can apply these laws. So what was your story?
It's not a big thing or anything.
All
It
right, let's
was a
hear your little
small, which I think is good, right? That's what I was at the baseball field for Gershom's baseball. Long story short, there's like a playground near the baseball diamonds, and me and the girls went over there to play. And there was a family, a mom and dad, and several kids leaving as we were coming in. And I noticed when we walked by the bench at the entrance, there was a phone there. So normally, what I would do in the past before having these lessons is I would think, oh, somebody just sat it there. They're probably over there with their child. I'm not going to think twice about it. I'm going to worry about it. But when I looked at it and I did the normal thing, like I just explained, and then I was like, wait, we've been talking about this. What is the right thing to do? So just as I thought that, their phone started ringing. And I was like, should I answer it? It just said a name. So I was like, I don't think so. I don't think I'm going to answer it. I don't think that's the right thing to do. But as soon as the call ended, it stopped ringing. I saw the picture on the phone and it was the family that I just walked by. Very clearly, I could tell it was the mom. She had red hair, like it was just very clear that it was them. I picked up the phone. I told the girls to stay there and I ran after them and they didn't hear me. I was like, excuse me, excuse me. I was like, oh no, I'm not going to get them. I'm not very fast. But I finally caught up to him and I was like, did you leave your phone at the playground? And she's like, oh, I don't think so. And then I showed her the phone and I was like, this is you, right? She's like, oh my goodness, you're right. That is my phone. Thank you so much. And I thought, okay, I'm so glad I did that because she had, I don't know, I'm going to say 4 children with her, very small children. We all know how difficult it is to get small children in the car. And she probably would have maybe even been home when she realized she left at the playground and would have had to have gone all the way back. So I'm so thankful
And in the
because I
course
was
of
able to
that,
help.
it's very possible that a person not as honest as you might have seen that phone and said, "Oh, all right, that's a nice one. Let me pocket it. Let me wipe it. Let me
Sure,
even
sure.
sell it."
Yep, yep.
Wow.
That's very possible too. You're right.
What a beautiful story. That's not a small story. That's exactly a story of these laws. That's a beautiful story. And it's
Yes.
that's a beautiful story. It's and each time also, like as little things happen in my life and I'm like I also like think about the laws because we keep talking about them. And as I keep saying, this happens in our world. We lose things and we find things. And what are obligations? What are responsibilities? So if we would look at that case in hand, in the prism of what we've learned, right? We would say that there's 2 qualities we look at to say, do I have a real strong obligation to return this? One we said is, does it have identifiable signs? So did that phone have identifiable signs?
Yeah, it was her picture. It was so
Absolutely.
clear.
Absolutely. It was a clear picture,
Yeah.
a very
Mhm.
identifiable sign. The second quality would be, did the person lose it in a very busy place or was it in a more quiet place? So I would take a park as a
Busy. This one was busy. There were people everywhere.
oh,
So
'cause I was looking at it like, okay, so a park is like a more quiet place. It's not like a street that's just teeming with people. They were saying,
no, because they were, it was all these baseball games going on. And so there's tons of kids just everywhere,
wow.
running from the playground
So
to
they were
watch
really
the
blessed
game.
by God that of all people, you saw that phone and you saw that family and that phone rang and you saw that picture. God put a lot of dots together to make it so natural for you to return that phone to them. And if you've been deliberating a few more minutes and if the phone hadn't rung, if you had picked it up, if it wasn't
Right,
locked, and you noticed the picture by that time, probably long gone the car, maybe
right.
opened it up and maybe you would have found the number and like we've mentioned my daughter lost a
Yeah,
phone and someone
right,
couldn't
right.
open her phone but saw through a notification a phone number and called that phone number and that's how my daughter eventually got her phone back. And somebody once called me and said, I found your phone. I'm like, my phone? I didn't lose my phone. Like this woman, I didn't even know I lost my phone. It was already found. So there are honest people in the world. There are people that make an effort because obviously the easiest thing is to go and say, not my issue. I'm sure whoever lost it will find. I don't want to even I don't even want to get involved because I don't know whose it is. And so it does take a certain care and compassion for people, especially here when Danielle could have told herself, well, this is a very busy place, so I could assume the person despaired.
Hmm.
But maybe she'd say, I doubt she despaired. She probably just lost it. So there's a lot of That's always that factor to think. Could the person despair? Well, here clearly they didn't despair. They didn't even know they lost it yet.
Mm-hmm.
No, but that's always what we're trying to figure out. Did the person despair? And if they despaired, well, then again, there's the technical abatement of your responsibility. But then there's just what people do anyway. And I said,
Yeah.
I find it very interesting that in returning lost objects, more than in like almost any commandment, it's so clear that people go beyond what God's asking them. Because there definitely are situations where you could say, I think this person despaired, but that doesn't stop people from,
Mm-mm.
which is really beautiful. So Danielle, if it hadn't worked out that way,
Hmm.
like you weren't able to open up the phone,
Hmm.
you weren't able to get any numbers, it didn't coincidentally ring at that moment, what do you think would have been the best thing for you to do?
Ask the parents. Well, I was gonna. My first thought was to look around for parents in the playground because it was the bench in the playground, and ask the parents, "Did anyone lose a phone? Did you lose a phone?" If they said yes, I would ask them to describe it. The problem with this phone is it was like black. It was just like there was nothing special about it. It just was a very plain looking phone, so that would have maybe been difficult. But I did stand there for quite some time. It was probably only like 30 seconds, but it felt like
Feels
forever
like a
trying to
long
figure
time
out
when you have little
what I
children
should
and you're
do.
trying to figure out what to do with it. I would think,
Yeah.
based on what we've learned, that I think your first perspective was smart. Look for any adults in the park and say, "Did you lose a phone?"
Yeah.
Because assuming they're honest people, if someone would say yes, and let's say they're dishonest, well, describe it.
Right.
Is it an iPhone? Is it a Samsung? Is it an Android? What is it?
Right.
And then open it up. Show me that it's yours. Can you open it up? Do you know the code?
Oh, yeah. Good point.
But I think if nobody knew what you're talking about, probably the best thing in that situation is to leave a note, because
Oh, on the bench.
I think so.
Okay.
Because I think if you would leave it and you would say, well, I asked everyone in the park and it's nobody's, so I have no way of finding the person, so I'll just leave it here. My concern would be, but what if a dishonest person walked by and just took the phone? Like, remember, happened as we were
Yeah.
doing these laws, as I mentioned, it happened. My daughter thought it was night, and she was outside with a black fanny pack waiting for me. I thought the car was one direction. She went to the direction it was. So then she realized I wasn't coming. So she ran down the block and got me and brought me back to the car. So in all the, ensuing things that happened, we went away and my daughter's like, wait, where's my fanny pack? And the fanny pack was an expensive camera. I'm like, oh my gosh. She said, yeah, I must have left it right outside the car. Oh no. I'm like, should we just turn back? She's like, no, just whatever. If someone took it, someone took it. Like, what can we, if it's meant to be lost, it's meant to be lost. It's meant to be taken, it's meant to be taken. It's okay. I mean, we were home within the hour. And she was like thinking, like, what would have happened? I mean, there's a lot of religious Jews in our neighborhood, but not only religious. And she was like, well, if a religious Jew found it, she said probably they would take it and leave a note.
Mm-hmm.
Or if somebody else found it who wasn't so honest, they would just take it. So she would like first look to see if it was there and it wasn't there. And then she looked to see if there was a note and there was no note. And then thank God she found it was actually in the car the whole time. But that was sort of like the logic. Like if somebody moral, ethical, religious passed by and saw it and realized, oh, there's something valuable in here, they wouldn't just leave it because, well, it's clearly not mine. I'm not stealing it. I'm leaving it. No, because how can you rely that the next person that passes by is also moral and ethical and honest? What you need to
Mm-hmm.
do is take it and then write a note so when the original owner comes, they can reach out to you and then they can get their object back. You don't describe exactly what it is. Found, valuable object. If missing, call me and describe, whatever. As I said, conversely happened to me where I dropped my iPhones, not my iPhones, my AirPods, right in front of my house, driving somewhere, realized that I had dropped them, drove back. I mean, I was on my way back. And I believe I saw the man who saw it, picked it up, and walked off with it. Now, clearly, he didn't leave a note, didn't say anything. I did call down the block to him. I'm like, hello, hello, hello. But he just kept walking. And, whatever was too far, I wouldn't have reached him. Um, but yeah, that's what I think is really the obligation of a really moral, ethical, honest person, is to say, if I just walk away, it's not my problem. It isn't my problem because I could always say the person probably despaired, so I don't have to make it my problem. But like in my daughter's case, I think it would be the obligation because it's a side street. How many people pass there? And it has identifying signs. So for sure she didn't have despair yet. So then I do think it would be the, so to speak, problem, onus of responsibility of whoever finds it to do the honest thing, which is try to find the owner. And I think the only way in such a situation to find the owner is to take it and leave a note.
So I have a few questions about that. So what if you were, well, let's just say in my example, I picked up the phone, there was no identifying, I couldn't find out who it was. So I leave a note, I take it home. What if that person accuses me of stealing their phone?
You left a
Or
note. Really
so
not stealing
let's
it. You left a note.
let's say something happens to the note. I don't know, someone sees it and thinks it's trash and throws it away. And then I'm an hour later after my son's baseball game walking to my car and they notice I have the phone in my hand or something. And you stole my phone. I've been looking for my phone all day. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that went through my head. Like if I touch it and if it's somebody's, they're gonna be like, why are you messing with my phone?
I could even see you think I was actually going to say, I was actually thinking before that you could think I don't want to touch it because I don't want anyone to think I'm a thief.
Exactly.
So I could totally see that. And I guess the way to overcome that is to like
Hmm.
write the note before you touch the phone.
Oh,
You know what
okay.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
To in some way on something write a note and even like my daughter once. Now this was in the streets of Crown Heights. Sabra said she was. Danielle I know was for a very beautiful wedding. So Crown Heights obviously very religious Jewish neighborhood, but also other ethnicities. And my daughter once found, I don't remember, if it was a bracelet, a necklace, something. And she wasn't sure what to do. Maybe been on like, I don't remember. I told her, take it and you have to write a note. She's like, take it. I'm like, yeah, if you leave it, anyone could steal it. You know, this is has clear signs. Now, New York is obviously a very busy place. You could say there's too many people, but since a lot of the people are religious Jews, then the assumption of someone who lost it is, oh, it's very possible another religious Jew found it, and obviously they're gonna, they're gonna try to return it to me. So that would mean the person wouldn't despair. So for sure, I don't. She didn't have a note on her. I said, just take it now. You have to take it because if you don't take it, somebody else not honest could pick it up and steal it. Take it and then go right away. And my mother lives like whatever, a block away, half block away. Get paper, get tape, marker, write a few signs. I told her a few, post up a few signs, and that's it. Found if you lost something in this area, she might have even said jewelry because that's a vague enough word. Like found jewelry if you lost, and she left her number. I have no clue if the owner ever reached found her, but I do know that a number of people did call her who had lost jewelry. so
Uh,
so I think I understand that hesitation, that sense of like, well, I don't want to be accused of anything, but I think your moral obligation overrides that.
okay, that makes sense. And then my second question is I'm very sure, which I didn't get to that stage, right? But that they have a lost and found there. So would it be appropriate to give it to the lost and found?
I don't know. I think it
Okay.
depends on, like, I don't know because I would sort of depend on like how much I would trust that lost and,
Right.
like, I wouldn't give it to a lost and found because I would feel like I'm abrogating my responsibility, and
Yeah.
I don't know how careful not even how honest, but how careful they are. Like, what does the
Right.
person need to do to say it's mine? You know what I'm saying? Like, I just wouldn't know. I wouldn't feel.
Yeah, because it could be, some 13-year-old kid that plays baseball,
Who's
hovering, I don't know, and somebody could just walk up and say, I lost a phone. And he'd be like, oh, we have one in our lost and found. Is this yours?
you
Yes.
probably
Okay.
have like it was interesting thinking of all these laws. I heard or read. I didn't hear it. I read last night. I think at the Trump rally. So someone was describing that afterwards, like the whole empty stadium was full of like cell phones.
Hmm.
Which obviously makes a lot of sense. So So what happened to all those cell phones? What did they do? Did someone take the time to collect them all? And in some way, the people have a means of, like, like a phone is like such a valuable piece of information. Like it contains so much information, you know, on so many levels is locked into my phone. It's like
Mhm.
a hard thing to think of losing like that. So, like, so many people that, like, I'm since the people ultimately would absolutely know where their cell phone is, there must be something set up that hopefully they didn't, I'm sure they didn't trash them all. They must have gathered them all, and probably there's some system of people to call and give identifying information. And I'm sure for many of them don't live that close. Hopefully they'll mail them to them, because that's a lot of cell phones, they said, wheelchairs, like, you can imagine the panic and the fear and the people leaving and not, just wanting to get out. Yeah, no, I think it is very realistic, and I would not feel so safe in a lost and found situation. If it was me and I found something, like if it was me in a park where there was like a park style lost and found, I don't think I would feel comfortable. Now I do remember once at a wedding. Was at a wedding. Okay, so wedding's a very contained area, right? Um, I don't think it was me. I think it was maybe my daughter. Someone found like a piece of jewelry. Like happens, you're dancing and the jewelry slips off. And I did see like go over to the DJ, the band, whoever had the mic, to just announce the jewelry was found. So I don't remember then. We might have like given it to the DJ instead of saying "Come find us." He's holding it. But I do think at the end of the wedding we went to him to find out what happened. Like, was it found? Was it not? It was. Yeah, I do remember because he was holding it, and then it wasn't found. The very end. Oh yeah, we realized whose it was, and we were able to return it. So we did give it because, practically speaking, it made more sense for someone who would say, "Oh my gosh, it's mine," to go to him than to go find us. But I did. There is that sense of checks and balances to make sure that if it wasn't found, it didn't get like taken accidentally. And any other questions? Did we cover both of them?
That is all. Thank you.
Okay. It is all because this is real and because it's such a special moment. God's will is actualized by us. So I think of it sort of like your gift to God and God's gift to you, because you gave God a gift because his will was fulfilled through you. And God gave you a gift because he gave you the opportunity to fulfill his will. And
Amen.
I think that's a really beautiful moment. And I somehow feel that a lot, especially for a Noachide. Maybe I'm wrong, but because I feel a lot of Noachide things are don't do this wrong or don't do this wrong. And it's nice to have the opportunity to say, do this act for me. Now, maybe you don't feel that way, and I'm just viewing it that way. So I don't know if you ever have that sense of.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Do you ever have that sense, Sabra, that you want to do because as a Noachide, it's more things to not do than to do?
I know that a few years ago I found a class ring in my parking lot, and I was working that day, and it was a class ring from Notre Dame. And I thought, oh, someone's going to be so disappointed they lost their class ring. And I took it back into my office and I talked to my boss and I said, do you mind if I spend some time tracking this person down? And he said, absolutely, go for it. And so I was able to look at the initials on the class ring and the year of graduation and then call the alumni office at Notre Dame, and we tracked down the individual.
Wow.
And yeah, it took me almost half a day of work,
Wow.
but
Wow.
my boss was on board, and if it weren't, he gave me the encouragement I needed to just investigate and find this gentleman, and the gentleman was just grateful beyond words. And it turned out to be a really wonderful opportunity to make a new friend.
Wow. What a beautiful story. What a beautiful embodiment, and how much joy and pride God must have had watching that unfold.
Oh, thank you. I knew how hard I studied during college, and I didn't have a class ring, but had I had one and I lost it, I would have been very disappointed.
Yeah, that's true. And you were like, wait, there are signs, and these are actually signs that I could use as clues.
Exactly, clues. And I love to research. I love to investigate. So It was fun. I enjoyed every
The
minute.
right person found it. Because someone like me would have put up a sign, you know. I wouldn't have thought of, wait, there's an alumni association. Wait, there's years. Wait, there's initials. This might be findable. And then,
Well, my boss's support, which was important too, because I was taking time away from my tasks at work, and but it all worked out beautifully.
that's beautiful. So your boss also obviously is part of
Yeah,
that credit and
yeah,
that
good heart.
actualizing God's will. And again, your gift to God, God's gift to you, your ability to do exactly what God wants. And God gifted you with the ability to do that, you know, the ability to do that beautiful kindness for another human being.
It was fun. I enjoyed it. I was so grateful that I was the one that found it.
Like the
Thank you.
story of someone who found a camera and tried to find the owner and then just developed the film and then just had the pictures and through the pictures
Yeah,
tried to find the owner. Like it literally
right.
happened. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's yes, absolutely. Really special. Really special. Wow. That's a beautiful story. That
Thank
is.
you.
We have time for like maybe one new law. Basically, actually, this law is saying, going back to what we were saying here, is even in theory, if something has identifiable signs, but if it's in a very busy place where very busy traffic, the assumption would be, well, the owner, yes, there's signs, but the owner's never going to hope someone's going to find it, and you know, he lost hope for sure. How many people passed it? Somebody would have stolen it by now. So we can assume he despaired, and therefore, on a technical level, we do not have an obligation to return it. But on a, of course, moral level, as both of these stories are demonstrating, we always try. But the caveat in the law is if it's a place that you know the people, the majority of the people would try to return it, then we do not believe the person despaired. Like, for example, like let's say the example of my daughter finding that, I don't remember, bracelet, necklace in Crown Heights. So when you're in a place like Crown Heights or even West Rogers Park, hopefully some blocks, and you're like, well, there's a lot of religious Jews here. You know, I know the moral and ethics and values of these Jews is to return objects. So therefore, I trust that a religious person found it and is going to return it to me, or a very moral non-religious person, non-Jewish person, as happened to my daughter. When I said that my daughter lost her cell phone and it was returned, she did lose it in Crown Heights, and I'm pretty sure it was a non-Jewish person found it and did take the effort to return it, because almost like Danielle's story of the picture flashing here, like a notification flashed with a phone number across the screen, and this woman just, I guess I don't know, I guess it must have, I don't, she probably just was on the screen when she opened up the screen. She just somehow saw that notification and she called that number. Happens to be like my daughter's uncle. It was very random. And she's like, I have this phone. He's like, I don't know, my number, a phone. And then he called me, and then I had my phone clearly. And then we realized it was my daughter's phone. So this woman took the effort. So, you know, there are moral people all over the world. But if you know that you lost your object in an area that you know the culture of that town or city or neighborhood or group of people or ethnicity is to be moral and upright and return things, then we assume the person did not despair. Because the person's like, it's a busy area, but I know a lot of the people in this area would care to go that extra mile and return it. So therefore, I'm trusting. And therefore, you, the finder of something that has signs in a busy area, but where there are lots of moral people that would return, the owner didn't despair. You got to work to find them. And now we have a beautiful story from Sabra that you could take half a day of work. But you know what? You do your part, God does his.